We are what we think. Henry Ford said it best. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. This quote is talking about the power of the placebo effect. So with this video, I want to dive into the placebo effect. And if you're wondering what the placebo effect has to do with the title of the video of becoming what you believe, it'll all make sense. So just hang with me for a bit. First of all, what is the placebo effect? The placebo effect is a phenomenon where a person's symptoms or behaviors improve after receiving a treatment with no therapeutic value, simply because they believe that it's effective. And so this effect shows the profound connection between the mind and the body, demonstrating how our expectations and our beliefs can influence our physical health. And there are quite a few examples that I found that show this actually working in research as well. So here's a couple things that I found. First of all is pain management. Research at Harvard Health has shown that when patients believe that they are receiving a pain relieving treatment, their perception of pain decreases, even if the treatment is inert. Why is this the case then? This response is attributed to the brain releasing endorphins, which are the natural painkillers that our body has in anticipation of the relief. So this literally means that just the act of taking a pill and truly believing that the pill will work helped individuals to perceive less pain. In other words, just the thought of a pill helping them helped to alleviate their issues. But that's not all. Let's move on to the second example that I found, which is depression treatment. A study published by the NIH found that patients with depression experienced significant mood improvements after taking a placebo, believing that it was an antidepressant. Because of this, the placebo effect phenomenon suggests that the expectation of healing can actually trigger real psychological benefits. And before somebody leaves a comment about depression can't be solved by just thinking about it, these same patients were also given actual medication afterwards, and they responded better to the medication compared to their counterparts who did not receive the placebo. So don't worry about it. Parkinson's disease is the third example that I found. In patients with Parkinson's, placebos have led to the release of dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter that I'm pretty sure you've heard about before. And it's a neurotransmitter that is deficient in such individuals. And because of this placebo effect, it resulted in temporary motor function improvements, noted up to 40%. And this study was funnily done by Fabrizio Benedetti himself, which is the person who is actually known for his research into placebos since the 90s. Two more for you. Jaw pain relief. University of Michigan scientists injected the jaws of healthy young men with salt water to cause painful pressure, while PET scans measured the impact in their brains. During one scan, the men were told they were going to be getting a pain reliever, which was actually a placebo. And so their brains immediately released more endorphins, which we talked about earlier, the chemicals that act as natural painkillers, and the men actually felt better. And here's the funny thing too. To return to the pre-placebo levels of pain, the scientists actually had to increase the amount of pressure that the salt water was injected into them. Last one, migraine relief. A 2014 study involving migraine sufferers revealed that placebos labeled as real medication and the real medication labeled as a placebo both provided pain relief. And what's even more fascinating is that when the true placebo was compared to the actual medication, when the patients were asked about their levels of relief, they were actually comparable. As in, the people who took the placebo and the people who took the actual medication reported comparable levels of pain relief. And all of these research studies kept coming to the same conclusion: placebos worked. So let's take this deeper, beyond the research studies. Here's a hypothetical. Imagine you're standing at a bus stop and some stranger suddenly starts charging towards you aggressively. What do? What happens to you in that moment? Your heart races, your muscles tense, your body starts going into overdrive, pumping adrenaline in anticipation for what might be coming up. Now, let's just say before this individual gets to you, they dart around you. You realize in that moment they weren't looking at you, but rather focused straight ahead, and you just happen to be in their line of sight. What happens now after the person has passed you? Your body returns back to its normal state. Your heart starts to slow down, your muscles relax, and your body starts to reduce the cortisol levels. Why is this? Because you now believe that the perceived danger is gone. Even though it turns out you were never truly in any actual danger, your body still reacted as if you were. And the reason why is because you believed you were in danger because of your perception. And the important word here is the word perception. This is why, for example, some people can be scared stiff of roller coasters and other people seemingly cannot get enough of the things. It's the perceived danger of the potential of what could happen on the roller coaster that prevents someone from going on the ride. This means then that our mind doesn't just process reality, but rather it creates our own version of reality. And so this is the premise of the glass is half full versus glass is half empty thing that you probably heard of before. What you see is how you perceive things, not necessarily how it is in objectivity. So I've given you a lot of stuff so far, but what is the point that I'm getting at here? Let's bring it back to our lives then. If you constantly think negative thoughts like, I'm not good enough or nothing ever works out for me, your body and your actions will begin to reflect those beliefs. And this is the reality that you were creating for yourself. Because you are creating this reality for yourself, your mind now goes through this confirmation bias and finds reasons to affirm the reality that you set for yourself, the reality you created, how you perceive. You're seeing things through this lens. And so the confirmation bias starts to continue to take effect. And so again, you will see how the negative feedback loop starts to work its magic here. It all starts with the thought. And this is why the famous quote from Lao Tzu starts with, watch your thoughts. Now, in the same way that negative beliefs can drag you down, positive beliefs can lift you up. This is why the placebo effect is so profound, because it demonstrates that believing in something, even if it's not real, can still produce real results. So at this point, you probably are asking yourself, so are you saying I can just think my way to success? Not exactly. See, belief alone is not going to make you successful. You also have to act. For example, if someone believes that they are a painter, they have to act like a painter. I know, makes sense? Hear me out. What does a painter do at the core? Yes, they paint, but I would argue that a painter doesn't just paint once and call it done. They paint regularly. This would imply repetition and consistency. Repetition, consistency. Okay. If someone wants to become a sprinter, does that sprinter sprint once and never again? No, they sprint repeatedly and consistently. If someone believes that they can become a fantastic orator, someone who gives amazing speeches that really rile up a crowd, does this person just give one speech and never give another speech again? No, they give speeches repeatedly and consistently. If I believe that I was put on this earth to impact lives through the information that I'm putting out to you on the internet, you watching this video right now, do I put out one piece of content and call it a day? No, I put out content repeatedly and consistently. You see the pattern here? So logic would then follow that if you repeatedly practicing the behaviors of your ideal self, in other words, doing those activities that your ideal self would do repeatedly and consistently, you'll start to see improvements. But that might beg another question though. What if I doubt myself? And honestly, that is a fantastic question that can be its own video. But to touch on it very lightly here, doubt is, in my opinion, one of the biggest enemies of belief. So to answer the question, what if you doubt yourself? Let's go back to the examples that I gave in the research studies. A common trait amongst all the studies is that the people taking part in the study truly believed in what it is that they were taking. They truly believed to their core that what they were doing was going to help them. Now, success is not guaranteed. Let's just keep it 100%. Success is not guaranteed, but starting with a rock solid belief puts you in the best possible position to be successful. So, $1 million question. How do we incorporate the placebo effect into our daily lives? Here's how. Number one is visualization. I want you to craft what I call your ideal persona. This persona would be you at your peak physical shape, peak mental shape, peak family life, the whole 9 yards, plus some overage, okay? What does this person look like? What do they talk like? What do they walk like? What do they smell like? How do they carry themselves? Ask yourselves these questions and label them and write down the answers in extremely excruciating detail. This practice can help prepare you to realize some improvements. As you're going day by day by day, you start to remember, okay, my ideal persona would look like X. Is what I'm doing today going to help me get further along in my goal to looking more like X? Second thing that you could do is positive thinking. Maintain an optimistic outlook towards life. This doesn't mean walk around and have a grin on your face all day and act like nothing's wrong, okay? Don't be weird. But again, realizing that every situation in life is a glass half full, glass half empty situation, no matter what the situation is. Yes, even if someone passes away. I know, crazy take, but here's my reasoning why. All humanity's lifespan, past, present, and future, can be seen as a relay race. Everyone has a turn to hold their baton and run their leg of the race, which is representative of their life. So long as someone is alive, that means that they are still running their leg of the race. They are still impacting people. They are still making things happen. They are impacting people. They are leaving their dent in the universe. This means that they are still in the process of bringing that baton, that figurative baton, to the next person who needs to run their leg of the race, aka the next generation. Until that baton is fully handed off and that other person is done running. You see it in the Olympics too, when they're running the relays. When that person is done, the baton is handed off and then that person is done running. Until that handoff occurs, the next person cannot fully bloom into their greatness, as the previous person will either A, overshadow that person, or B, potentially suppress what that next person is called to do with their life. Again, I'm not saying you should be jumping for joy that somebody passed away. Again, don't be weird. All I'm saying is that with this positive thinking point, right? All I'm saying with this positive thinking point is that you have the choice in every situation to think positively and choose to act on that. And it may not seem like it in the moment because you are in a more emotionally compromised state. But once you come back to your emotional equilibrium, which can take a while, let's be honest, if you're upset at something, it could take a while. If you're pretty stressed out at work, it can take a while. Trust me, I understand. But once you come back to that emotional equilibrium, take some time to reflect on how to handle that situation differently, should it happen again. And write it down somewhere. Don't just think about it, write it down somewhere. And the third thing that I have for you is to establish routines and rituals. Establish routines that you trust and believe in, such as a consistent sleep schedule or a daily exercise regimen. Doing this will help you to achieve that ideal persona. And the reason why I want you to focus on this is because of a quote by James Clear. He says, "You don't rise to the level of your goals, but you fall to the level of your systems, aka your routines and your rituals, the things that you do day in and day out." Now, you can have the best goal in the world, but a goal without steps, actionable steps rather, to actually achieve a said goal is nothing more than a lucid daydream. The routines, the systems that you set are the bridge between you at your 9 to 5 dreaming about your future and you actually accomplishing your future. So this point is simple, yet most people are going to hear this and let it go in one ear and out the other. In fact, most people have probably already clicked off of this video. But for those of you who are still watching, I highly recommend that you create systems that advance you and that challenge you. For longtime listeners and watchers of the show, I used to reference what I called the 4 foundational pillars of faith, fellowship, fitness, and finance. And what you want to do is create systems that stretch you just enough to where it feels minorly uncomfortable, which is outside of the comfort zone, which I've made other episodes about, right? You want to stretch yourself to that point where you just feel a little bit uncomfortable, but not too much to where it's unbearable in those 4 pillars. Only then will you start to see some change. Because just like in the gym, it's only when you reach the true point of muscle failure and go past it do your muscles grow. Otherwise, it's really nothing but just glorified maintenance. So bottom line, what can you take from this? Belief is a very powerful first step, but action is what really solidifies the change. And if you want to truly benefit from the placebo effect, combine your positive expectations with concrete actions. And one of those actions, if you do no other actions from this video, one other action that you should take should be putting meat to the bones of your goals. This is exactly why I call this brand Motivate, Grind, Succeed. right? Because this video that you just watched was the first part, right? The motivation. And in order to get success, you need to do the grind, which is the daily work, like the goal setting, the accountability, the ideal persona work, etc., etc., etc. You get the idea. And this is unfortunately where most people fall off, because once you start diving in, you'll realize that this is actually a lot of work, as in a lot of work. Okay, like lifelong work. Fun fact, I actually looked this up. It's so common for people to actually quit the goals that they set and that they're motivated about come New Year's that there's actually a day for it. January 10th is National Quitters Day. If you don't believe me, look it up. And so it's usually by this time that gyms tend to return to their normal occupancy. Pelotons will get returned and people fall back into their unhealthy diets or their bad habits, and people on their personal development journey, they usually relapse back into their comfort zone. And so this video is dropping well past that date. But the thing is that even though the date has passed, that doesn't mean that it's too late to restart. You don't have to wait until the next year to go ahead and restart your goals. You can restart them today. You just have to make the choice to do so. So what I did to help support you even further, going beyond this video, if you want to take this video and work with what I've told you, perfectly fine. But if you want to take it a step further, you know you need that extra little something. You need that extra little kickstart to get into the next step of your self-improvement journey, or simply just need something as a way to get you a fresh start. What I did was I actually created a free training that goes through my Strategizer 360 framework, which is a system that's designed to help to get you out of that cycle of stress, out of the overwhelm, and that feeling of making no progress, or worse yet, going backwards, and transform that into positive, forward, sustainable momentum without burnout. If you're interested, check out the first link in this video's description to sign up. You'll get a copy of the framework to keep completely for free, and you can apply it to literally just about any goal that you can throw at it. But remember, whatever you do past this video, information without implementation is useless. So take the next step and turn your beliefs into reality. Take action, implement what you've learned, and start creating the life that you truly want. See you in the next one.